Hey everybody, this is For Real What's Happening. It is the second season of True Peak Hour. For realsies.
For realsies, we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
It was a couple of months, right?
Girl, a couple, come on.
It was just a couple of months of not hanging out. You know what I mean?
No,
we would have coffee.
No, we were hanging. No, that's the complete opposite. We were hanging out, but we were like hanging out in between like mad like sessions or just like a bunch of work. So you know, we've been working, y'all.
Sessions,
Hell
traveling,
yeah.
And once it got close to the holidays, it got really like everybody was kind of settling down.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. So, but you know, new year, new us.
New us.
Yeah, I'm not pregnant anymore.
Yeah. Woo! Now the baby's walking, driving, and gonna graduate college.
Fully enrolled. So yeah. Wow, that's crazy. That happened so long ago. But here we are. Hopefully you guys don't hear me anymore losing my breath, because remember that? Man, those were hard times. I'm so proud of me.
That's the full on woman.
Yeah, motherhood.
Motherhood.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We've embraced it. But yeah, I don't know. Is there any like special highlights you have in your life that you want to share with our listeners?
I think the most exciting thing I had at the end of the year was going to Korea, which I didn't think I was going to go to South Korea at all anywhere in my life or anytime soon. And just getting called up to do camp K-pop sessions there was just dope.
It's crazy, man. See, this is what I'm talking about when I say we were working.
Yes.
We were like traveling to do sessions. What?
Yeah. Definitely last minute thing, surprising. Went to a couple studios down there, ate a bunch of crazy food and a lot of soju.
Nice.
Soju, right?
Yeah, it catches up to you, man. Doesn't it?
It does. I mean, they're really strong. Koreans are really strong on the soju.
No, I've had it and then like, I had too much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like it just catches up to you. It's good.
And then it's like they don't. Well, at least it was drank straight and just cold. It's not like, oh, a little orange juice or anything like that. No,
it's
like just hardcore soju and with beer.
Yeah, no, that's doing too much. Respect, because I could not handle that with beer.
But it was fun. I had a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
Dope jams. Saw how Korean K-pop is created. So the way they create from like hip-hop, English music, transform it into K-pop is pretty interesting. I think you would have to be in the session to understand like the workflow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you have any like behind the scenes footage?
On my Instagram, I have like pictures of me in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Footage, no, because like you're on the desk, so it's like someone record me, like it's like, and then they record you, and it's like the back.
I would have flown to Korea just to record you. I would have been your fangirl.
Damn. Yeah. Next time.
Yeah, next time, because there's gonna be a next time for sure.
Yeah.
That's dope though. Cool. Well, I'm happy to hear that you've just been busy. I know that you've been busy, but I want our listeners to know that she has been hustling.
We out here hustling day and night.
And now
in the studios.
We've come together again to bring the podcast back. Now we added video, and we just forever are trying to keep expanding and hopefully in the future just better everything.
Yes.
So,
So welcome to the True Peak Hour Season 2.
Yes. Season 2, Episode 1. And today we're going to talk about maximizing a 2-track, because it happens. There's so many times where people are like, I only have the 2-track. Is that okay? Can you make it work? And it's happened to me with like, smaller clients. It's happened to me with just the biggest clients you can think of. And we just have to make it work. And there are certain things that you can do to enhance it. Sometimes the 2-track is squash and it sucks, and you got to figure it out. So we're going to talk about that, because I know it's something we all encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And before we do that, let's just talk about what it is, difference between getting a 2-track beat versus getting it stemmed out. Obviously, we get all the stems when we're talking about getting it tracked out, stemmed out. But like, what is really the qualitative differences between those?
Well, for a 2-track, it's a stereo file. So it's a left, well, mono, two monos, left and right, combined into a stereo track. Usually you get it like an instrumental beat.
Mhm.
So I've noticed like a lot of artists, they like a beat off of YouTube and then rip it off, and you end up getting a wave or MP3. So it's literally the instrumental track, stereo file in one file.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Full track out would be where you have the instrumental, but this time you have the stemmed out beat, individual files, kick, snare, clap, anything else,
Mhm.
and then that's a full track out.
Yeah.
Um,
Full instrumental track out, because it
yes.
also happens to me where I might have the full instrumental track out, but then the Pro Tool session got lost, and the vocals are only on a single
Right.
WAV file, like everything, the background vocals,
Yeah.
the lead vocals. So there's that situation as well. So obviously pros and cons of each. So the pros of mixing a 2-track, you would think, is that it's just less time.
Yeah.
There's less to work with, and because there's less to work with, you're not focusing too much, and you don't have you're being constrained, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes people would like a discount because it is a 2-track.
Right.
Because they
that.
understand that there isn't as much to work with.
Yeah.
So you could knock out a bunch of mixes in a day
Yes.
because it is a 2-track beat.
Yes. It usually takes me maybe like less than 2 hours or an hour to mix a 2-track, because it's just like I'm so used to it at some point, especially like doing sessions on the fly, like I don't know, like a 4-hour session, and you're like kind of mixing on the fly.
Yeah.
Onto a two-track beat. At the end of the session, it's kind of already mixed, like roughly pretty good.
If you're doing your job.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it's gotten really easy to just kind of knock out 2 tracks in one day, like a couple.
Yeah, exactly. So like the time difference is pretty substantial. Just for me, prepping a session with like the full stems might take the time that it takes me to mix a 2-track beat.
Yeah, of course. And the patience, because you gotta like name stuff.
Yeah, you gotta organize it.
Everything.
You gotta set up your buses if that's how you work, and color code everything. So it's just the time difference is substantial. So even when I'm looking at my week or my monthly projects, I'm considering, okay, how many 2-track beats can I fit in? Actually, I can fit in a bunch because I only have a few full stem mixes. So that there is that advantage. I think we shouldn't knock it just because it's a 2-track. It's a very easy way for you to get your skills up, especially on vocal production. If you are kind of still getting those skills, you're fine tuning them. The best way to keep practicing that is just keep mixing the 2-track beats. So try to book as many of those as you can. I know we are also on the engineers platform. There is the option to just book 2-track sessions. So maybe set yourself up with a special and get some practice in, because it's going to really, really help you with your time. It's going to help you with being faster in a recording session and getting a good rough mix. So don't just try to only book full stem mixing sessions.
Yeah.
What else do we have for pros and cons? Well, the biggest pro for the full stem mix is just flexibility. You have everything there.
It's easy. You get to just do a couple in a day, depending how like quick you are at it. There's some like I don't know if this is a pro or a con, because it depends. For me, a con for 2 tracks is that I'm able to get I'm kind of like I'm forced to get creative. Because once, let's say for example, a rapper comes in and they're like, okay, they laid out like one vocal, maybe some doubles. How can I make this his track?
Right.
So I'll probably go in and stutter the beat, or like add some some spaces, filter out the beat. Even though I don't have like the option to go in there and kind of mess with each individual instrument, I try to find a way where I can make the full instrumental part of his vocal. Like this is his song in particular. That's probably a con for me. I mean, a pro. Um a con would be if the artist is asking like, oh well, can you lower like the hi-hats or can you mute the snare
Right.
here? And it's just like, I can't do that if it's only a 2-track file. It's like I don't have that much control over
Yeah.
the instruments.
Yeah. And there are like programs that exist that like you can strip the instrumental and all that stuff. But
But would you charge extra for that?
oh my God, wow, a question on the spot.
Because it's like, whoa, like you're trying to like, at this point, you're just like stripping the MP3 or WAV file from what they already stripped off YouTube. You know what I mean? So now you're like sending it through another application where they strip out it strips out the stems. You know what I mean? Into stems.
I think I would only do that in the situation where they are really asking, like, can you put the snare up a little bit? And
I wonder if I didn't. Well, I haven't come across that. That's very interesting.
No one's asked me if I like, can you do that?
Yeah.
I usually, if something comes up like that, like, hey, can you bring the snare up? And I only have the 2-track. Like, we're gonna talk about this later in the episode. I'm gonna like try my best through like EQ, like multi-band EQ, to do that. I don't think I'm ever gonna go in really and strip the
beat.
The beat, just
by the beat.
It's a little bit more than, because then I'm doing a full stem mix. Kind of.
You're right.
Kind of.
Then it turns into a full track.
I don't know. What do you guys think? I haven't encountered this situation, so please like let us know what you think, because I want to be like swayed one way or the other.
Right.
I don't like being in Switzerland. I want to have a really like hard opinion on something.
Yeah, exactly. You're right, because it does turn into just a full mix.
Kind of, yeah.
It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. But yeah, let us know how you feel about that. So the pros and cons, obviously, the 2-track are pretty obvious. You just don't have as much accessibility to the files. You can't do as much creatively on like easily, right? You were saying you are being forced to be creative because you don't have all the files. For me, like, I'm not really inspired to be creative unless I have all the files. Because then I'm like, oh, like, here are these laser sounds. I can, like, do some cool panning with them. But if I don't have it there, like, I'm not going to be able to think of all those, like, or actually, like, execute all those creative ideas I have.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I wish I had that same, like, aspiration to be creative when I only have a 2-track, but it really comes to me when I'm going through the stems and I'm realizing, oh wow, this is a really cool low tom. Because sometimes I get like stems and I don't even hear a lot of those textures until like
you start
I get
seeing
the
it
stems.
in the
And I'm
audio
like,
files.
oh, that's cool. Like let me play around with that. Like seeing all of that stacked up and layered together is what sparks a really good mix for me.
The crazy thing too is that now that we're moving into this Atmos world and spatial world, it's like you need stems.
Yeah, you need.
So
those
if you want to like keep upgrading, I guess, your work for the listener experience, as eventually if you want it in Atmos, you need a full tracked out mix.
That's really true. Yeah. Wow, I didn't think about that.
Now we're moving into that space.
That's a good way to encourage artists to just go ahead and start either buying the beat or start encouraging them to work closely with the producer. Is that like, hey, this is the future, like Atmos is the future, and to really get a good Atmos mix, you're gonna want all those stems.
Yeah.
So wow, man, you're just coming right out. Yeah. When we're working with 2-tracks on how to
work with the loudness.
Yeah, with loudness, EQing situations, making space for the vocals when you don't have space in the 2-track. So I think there's something you had said during a conversation we had with somebody about you like duplicate the instrumental, right? Can you like talk more about that when you duplicate
Damn, I
the?
used to do that though.
Yeah.
Now I feel like because there's like a lot of phasing issues, I don't do that. But I used to duplicate the instrumental into threes and kind of treat each like a frequency band. So I'll use one as like the bass, the lower frequencies, the mid, and then the highs. And like that, I feel like I was able to stretch the 2-track out, like as in width
Yeah.
and maybe dimension. But then I had encountered some like phasing issues. So I was like, okay, and like the another way I kind of went around that was I kind of leave the 2-track alone, and I'll add like what's it called, center. It's like a waves plugin,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I kind of dip. I'll raise the sides and dip the middle, and I kind of work with that.
That's cool.
And that plugin really helps out expanding and making room for the vocals. Because I don't know, nowadays a lot of these 2-track instrumentals, they feel decent to mix on, you know.
Yeah,
At
I
least
feel
to
like a
me.
few years ago, maybe
Before
like
they were crazy.
I feel like in 2015. How
Whoops.
funny.
Oh wow. Oh shit. Well, let me
We're getting a very important phone call from the studio.
let me just put it right here. If not, it's gonna like buzz. Okay. I still don't know how to ignore calls.
Damn.
But yeah.
So I think with instrumental tracks, like in 2015, let's say, the hardest thing was that they were just so freaking
Yeah.
loud.
Distorted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there was like nothing you could really do. It was just like, I mean, there was things that we
Yeah.
all worked around it, but like, oh my God, they were so
They were very
freaking loud.
crunchy. I would call them
Crunchy,
crunchy.
distorted, just really hard to work around.
Yeah.
And you couldn't really turn it down because the artist is like, why doesn't it sound, oops, I'm shaking the whole table. Why doesn't it sound like the reference,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it was like finding a balance between
And
the loudness of the
yeah.
instrumental and the loudness of the
Of the
vocals.
vocals, a lot of these, mind you, a lot of these instrumentals are already like went through some limiter. So in order for
sure.
them to be loud enough, so they meet any standard on YouTube, and then YouTube has its own like limiter
Yep,
on there.
yeah,
So and then you're ripping that off. It's like losing so much data at some point.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what I tend to do is I listen for the crunchiness and I just multiband EQ is like the best for it. Some of the common ones I use were like Mic DSP and the Fat Filter multiband. Just focusing on the nastiness, cutting it out, but leaving it loud because you can't turn it down when they've already like super used to it.
Yeah.
And just carving space for some vocals in there. What I have done too to just widen it is I've also duplicated it, but like left it like ridiculously low in the mix and added a stereo widener and some saturation to just fill the bottom a little bit more. So it does come back a little bit louder than what the reference was, and it has like some heaviness to it that didn't exist before. So definitely playing around with some mid-side, panning some EQ, and trying like my best to carve space for the vocals.
Yes. And I usually get a lot of 2 tracks mixes from people who record at home. They have their own setup. Especially when they're brand new and they don't have maybe any engineering experience or anything like that. The problem is that when they send the vocals, you can hear the instrumental like kind of feeding into the mic from the headphones. And that's like a big issue sometimes because especially for our R&B singers, let's say the song were to quiet down or it's like an acoustic guitar, you can hear like as you compress the vocals and like fix the vocals up, that background noise, you can hear it coming through
through the microphone.
through the microphone.
Yeah.
So my biggest tip I tell them to is like, if you're gonna record yourself at home, you gotta lower the instrumental beat by like 60 beat, and then bring up your preamp or your headphones. Kind of give it a balance,
Mm-hmm.
because if you can't hear yourself, you're just trying to hear yourself over the loud instrumental.
Right. You're just gonna keep fighting
Yeah,
and
you're
going
just
back and
fighting. You're
forth.
kind of
Yeah.
fighting with the instrumental
Yeah.
when from the beginning, just lower the instrumental down.
Yeah.
6 dB, 10 dB. I don't know how loud it might be, but that I always end up just using 6 dB, negative 6 dB.
I haven't found headphone bleeding too much of an issue lately, but I've found like just background noise, and it's like so loud that you can't cut in between takes. Like it sounds very obvious when you're cutting in between takes. Like it's like and it's just like, yeah, it's hard to work around that, because if you fade in and fade out, it just sounds like an air conditioner slowly turning on and
Yes,
then turning
yes,
off.
yes.
So those are things definitely to be mindful of, because then you can't rely on the 2-track or on the instrumental to kind of cover it.
To cover it, mask it. Yep.
Yeah, because you don't have all those stems. So
Yeah.
it's like, damn. So if you're working with artists that do that a lot, and take Jenny's advice, give them some tips on how to lighten up
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
headphone bleed.
Yeah, or if I really know them and I'm just like, you know what, just pull up to the studio like once.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a session, and then like I'll give you tips, But other than that, like when I get set mixes from like maybe like from another state, it's like harder for me to kind of give them a lesson or whatever.
What's like the biggest note you get when you have 2-track mixes? Is it like, hey, can you turn that one piece of an instrumental up? Or is it just like the artist not understanding that you don't have that power? Or is there something a little bit more common that you get as a mix note?
Most of the time it's like I don't the note would be like turn my vocals up
Mm-hmm.
or put my vocals more in the beat, everybody, but that's like a based on what you
What you
like,
prefer.
your preference. That's the only thing I get, because or sometimes I'll mix the 2-track and the vocals might sound a little bit brighter because I have the full capability of mixing the vocals, so I'm gonna make that like I tend to make that a little bit brighter, and then the instrumental it's already like maybe distorted or limited, and it sounds kind of like compact, So I gotta find a good balance where do I want the vocals to stand out bright or kind of be a little bit warm, that depends on how the 2-track sounds too.
Yeah.
Those are like the two critiques.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, because it's like now you have this unmixed instrumental, or not mixed by you, and you have your own sound, versus the vocals that have been properly treated, mixed, EQ'd. And the hard part there is now blending the two.
Blending. And you got to decide whether you want them warm, harsh, bright, well, all of that, edgy, whatever. And you can make the 2-track brighter, and you can make the 2-track darker or whatever. And then it goes with the vocals too. So I usually do my thing the first mix round and then see what they say. And if they say it straight up like, oh, it sounds too bright, then I'll back off. I'll take some plugins off. Usually some plugins give brightness. So, and I kind of, that's how then we kind of get in the ballpark of like where this whole mix is going and what you prefer, what kind of style you're trying to bring out from the song.
I saw I don't remember which mixing engineer did this. It was many years ago, and someone told me about it. But they said that on every aux they always had the Decapitator on there, which is by Soundtoys, and it was always super light. It was nothing like more than like 5%. But they did that so that everything was just touching that same coloration,
Oh, okay.
which I thought was
Yeah,
really
that's pretty cool.
interesting, because at first you're like, why would you want to do that to like everything?
Yeah.
But then it's like that bigger concept of matching tones
Mm-hmm.
throughout the whole record and not
Mhm.
just, having a distorted vocals over a bright instrumental.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
that was really neat. I haven't tried it myself, but I think I instinctively do something
Yeah.
similar to that.
Yeah, I'll use the lo-fi from
Yeah.
Wave. No, not from Waves. It's like a Pro Tools,
The Avid.
the
Yeah.
Avid standard Pro Tools that it comes with, plugin that it comes with. That lo-fi, just turn up this. There's the saturation and then distortion. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think I bring up the saturation like 1 or 2 notches. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I think
And it gives it like a push.
I've seen Ali do it for sure in a Twitch stream, most likely on an instrumental track. He had added just like a little 2-3% of that saturation, and it does a little something something.
Can you compare saturation to, let's say that color is like more it's the same saturation? It's like a color that you bring up the hue to the picture or image. I think it's called saturation.
It is
too,
called saturation
right?
as well. Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that level
Yeah.
too, like on like apps.
Yeah.
I love bringing it up
makes you
super
look
high.
all,
Yeah, I love colors to pop out. So like this is crazy now.
Yeah.
Like listening in a plugin form and making audio just kind of stand out with saturation.
This is going off topic, but for side hobbies, I feel like almost a lot of my engineer friends are also super into photography.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just like because it's so easy for our brains to connect the dots.
Yeah.
Even Guru is like such an avid photographer and amazing photographer. I think it's just something about the way our brains
decipher the definition or meaning. Yeah.
Because it's really similar. A lot of people talk about engineering being like an artist and painting, but even with photography, I think we can connect those links. Yeah.
Yep.
So, cool. Yeah. So I think when you are dealing with the 2-track, you want to consider the loudness. Is it too loud, or do you have the room to bring it up in the mix? Is there a way for you to add some width and some dimension to it? Because like we said, a lot of the 2 tracks, especially if they're read from YouTube, are very flat. So that's another thing to consider. Are there any issues in the 2-track?
Right.
Is it distorting? Are there certain elements that are not being emphasized that should be emphasized? The snare, the hi-hat, the bass. So those things to consider.
Yeah.
And then making it work around the vocals, because at the end of the day, the vocals are the most important part. So you want to make sure that you are able to carve space for the vocals. Right? I feel like that's like exactly what we're trying to bring some focus to when you're working with a 2-track.
Yeah, a lot of like mid-side EQing, the Fat Filter 3. I use like the mid. I'll carve out. That's how I end up carving out from the 2-track to make room for the vocals. Some carving out some mid out and then expanding the sides, which is most of the time it's like the high frequencies past anything 8K. I like to maybe add some EQ and carve out this, bring out the sides, like expand them. I don't know. I love a lot of plugins that like you can like expand the stereo field.
Yeah, I think a lot of those Plugin Alliance plugins have that stereo width knob, which I love because it's exactly that, and it's just you only need a little bit.
Yeah, if I ever made a plugin, it would have to do about like stretching out sides and like adding saturation.
This is a great icebreaker. Save this for later. Like if we're in an audio engineering circle, we should all go around and be like, if you can make a plugin, what would it be? Or like if you were any plugin, what would it be?
Mid-side plugin. I would create a mid-side plugin and that's it, because I don't want people to take my idea, but I would add other shit to the mid-sides.
Okay. If I were a plugin, the VSM3, it's like a saturation plugin. I love saturation plugins so much.
Yeah, those are cool too.
Yeah, I think that or the Type A audio thing, or Audio Things Type A. It adds like brightness. I feel like That's very much my
Yeah.
personality, is just like some shimmer here and there. So yeah,
Yeah.
if you were a plugin, what would you be?
Yeah.
Please share.
Tell us. Yeah.
I love it. Cool. So I feel like this is a very short episode back
Yeah.
into our season, but wanted to keep it brief, but an important topic because we all work with 2 tracks often. I think it's perfect if you want to just get experience, and sometimes that's all we have to work with. It
Yeah.
happens almost all the time. The producer lost files, or it's just an old song and they don't have the files anymore.
Not to cut you
No, you're
off.
good.
I had a couple times where an artist brought in the 2-track with vocals on, and then they had the instrumental version. And they were like, we don't have the stems, we don't have the session, but we want to recut the verse. And I'm just like, oh, okay. But mind you, like the basic reference track they have had 2 verses on it. They just wanted to recut the second verse. So what I had to do is take the instrumental track and kind of literally, match it to the grid, cut the instrumental, replace it on the reference track, and then they did the
Yeah,
reference.
I've definitely
the
had
verse
that.
too.
I've
It's like,
definitely
what?
been in that situation.
It's so, I feel like it's so, wow, I kicked the camera.
That's
Oops.
cool.
I know, wow.
No, I've definitely been in a situation. I've been in a
That's
situation
crazy.
where they didn't even have the instrumental, and they just
Oh,
they
shit.
wanted to do something where we had to just like cut it up from like the introduction and like add it in between like the hook and the verse, and it was like,
Damn.
man, I really wish we had those files
Yeah.
because it was hard. It was really hard.
But after you do it, you make it, and the session's done, you're just like, whoa, like I feel like I just invented the wheel or something,
Yeah.
because the session went great, they
Yeah.
left happy, and you're just like, I did it.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Okay, so what are your, I guess, True Peak tips on this 2
Yes, we're
track?
we're coming back with
Yeah.
those True P tips.
So 2-track versus, I mean, not versus full
No,
stem mix. It's
yeah.
just you're maximizing working
Maximizing
with
the
the 2-track.
2-track. Before you even start anything, like recording anything on the 2-track in the session, always just lower the 2-track, the instrumental beat, just lower it -6 dB so you have enough headroom to add vocals on top. That helps everybody out, from you listening through headphones and up to like the person mixing it, My second tip would be using that center plugin from Waves. It has 2 sliders, just carving out some mid so the vocal has enough room to kind of fit right in between. That's my favorite part to do for 2 tracks. And then last tip. Just getting creative with the 2-track. If you're allowed to, get creative with the 2-track. Maybe doing stutters or beat cuts, filtering out maybe a section of the verse, making it sound like the beat's underwater, something like that. If you get creative like that with the 2-track and people notice that and like that, you're definitely gonna get called back or for another session or another mix. I've done a couple, like maybe on mix 1, I've done some creative shit, and then like mix 2, like, oh, I want you to do more, do it on the second verse. Can you do it here now? Because now they feel more like, oh, this sounds super dope. It sounds so unique. This song is gonna sound unique to me, even though it was ripped off of YouTube or something.
Yeah.
But now the whole track sounds unique to the artist, and I think that's pretty cool.
Cool. For myself, True Peak tips. I guess my first one is, just because it's a 2-track doesn't mean you shouldn't touch it. So definitely treat it just like any other audio track that you have. EQ it, do some mid-side. It's just as important as anything else. My second one would be to accept, I guess mine are just a little bit more theoretical, but like still take 2-track sessions, like mixing sessions. I know some people are like, I don't do 2-track mixes. I mean, that's your own decision, but I encourage you to do it because it's a very good way to challenge yourself. You don't have as much flexibility. What can you do with those constraints? So definitely keep challenging yourself. And the third one would be, I think I said it earlier, is add some saturation to fill up that lower end when you don't have any control to, add some more bass or some more 808 or
Right.
try to see what you can do with some saturation to fill that space. So those are my true peak tips for maximizing a 2-track. I just want to thank everybody again for sticking around for our second season. We know it's been a wait, but we're excited to come back with video and
A lot of video content.
Yeah, a lot of video content coming, and we are back, baby.
Baby. But yeah, thank you for tuning in to the True Peak Hour, and this is us.
Hey.
And yeah.
So you can find me on Instagram. I actually changed my Instagram handle to my real name for the first time since I've ever been on Instagram. So I'm at Crystal Jerez. That's a silent J.
Yes.
And Jenny's on Instagram.
Yes, mine is jny.mixedit. So yeah, follow us.
Yeah, follow us, and you can also book us for mix consultations. A lot of people have been doing that. They've been going super well. So if you want us to go over your mix and just critique it, or if you have any questions about mixing, hit us up on our website. You can book us right there. It will be great. It's virtual with Google Meet. So yeah, reach out to us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
We are back, baby.
Baby.